Hello. Today I will be talking about Leonardo da Vinci's world famous Mona Lisa and two of its appropriations. In the words of critics, the Mona Lisa is probably the best known, most visited, most written about, most sung about, and the most parodied work of art in the world. Leonardo da Vinci began painting the Mona Lisa in about the year 1503, around the time he lived in Florence, but was found in his studio when he died in 1519. The year of completion is not exactly known. It is an oil on wood panel painting, and it was painted during the Renaissance era. The second piece of art I will be discussing is Marcel Duchamp's Look. In the year 1919, Marcel Duchamp drew a mustache and a goatee on a postcard reproduction of the Mona Lisa and called the resulting work Look, or LHOOQ. It is a ready-made. The term ready-made was first used by French artist Marcel Duchamp to describe the works of art he made from manufactured objects. It is one of the first known pieces of art to be considered as an appropriation. The piece I will be discussing is Andy Warhol's 30 Are Better Than One. It is a simple print created by Warhol in 1963. Unlike the other two, he adapted a technique from commercial printing in which a photographic image can be transferred to canvas by pushing paint through a mechanically produced silkscreen template. Fame was Warhol's true medium, which he subverted by insisting that he was just like everybody else, stating, "I think it would be so great if more people took up silkscreens, so that no one would know whether my picture was mine or someone else's." It is considered a pop art which popularized in the mid to late 1950s. There are four different versions of the Mona Lisa painted by Da Vinci and his students. The one we all know is the one at the Louvre Museum in Paris, France. For the most part, the Mona Lisa was relatively unknown up until it was stolen from that very place in 1911. Since the date of completion is unknown, he most likely worked on it intermittently over several years, adding multiple layers of thin oil glazes at different times. One of the most iconic features of the Mona Lisa are the small cracks in the paint throughout the whole painting. These cracks are finer on the hands, where the thinner glazes correspond to Da Vinci's later contributions. There are many different theories regarding the identification of the Mona Lisa. The first is that she is Lisa del Giocondo, the wife of the Florentine merchant Francesco di Bartolomeo del Giocondo, hence the alternate title to the Mona Lisa, La Gioconda. Another popular theory is that the painting was, in fact, Leonardo's self portrait, due to there being X ray evidence that there is another portrait beneath the original Mona Lisa. More evidence supporting this theory are the side by side comparison of Da Vinci's only known self portrait and the Mona Lisa. As you can see in the photo, all facial features are perfectly aligned with one another. This introduces the topics of identity, but we will discuss this more further on in the presentation. Moving on to Marcel Duchamp's piece LHOOQ. The name of this piece is a vulgar French pun. The letters pronounced in French sound like, translate to English, she is hot in the arse. In an attempt to recall when exactly in 1919 he had made this, Marcel Duchamp himself offered two different dates. In 1953, he mentioned that he created this in December, and in June of 1966, he later changed that and said he made this in October. The original piece was not displayed until 11 years later in March of 1930 in an exhibition in Paris, France. In art historical terms, Warhol's copies fall under the category of appropriation, a subgenre dating back to at least 1919 when Duchamp drew a mustache over the Mona Lisa. 30 or Better Than One is not really about the Mona Lisa or even about art, but rather concerns the torturous relationship between culture and media. And just like in the piece, it is a pattern and could potentially be infinite. As we can see, there are very few changes between Duchamp's and Warhol's Mona Lisas and Da Vinci's original. We can see that all three Mona Lisas are still in the three-quarter view in which the sitter's position mostly turns toward the viewer. The biggest noticeable difference between all three of the Mona Lisas is the color and shading. In the original painting of the Mona Lisa, it is easier to tell the difference between the water, the mountains, and the plains in the background. In contrast, in Duchamp's piece, we see the difference in value. In the original Mona Lisa, everything seems more blended in, as opposed to Duchamp's piece, we see more detail when it comes to lines because of the difference in shadow. For example, it is easier to see the creases on the Mona Lisa's clothing. As we can see in the background of Duchamp's piece, it is easier to see the details, but harder to tell the difference. In Warhol's printing, the focus isn't really on the Mona Lisa or the details in the painting as much as the other two pieces, as it's in black and white. Make this just by its title, 30 or better than one. He doesn't really want the viewer to focus too much on the details of the Mona Lisa, but just take in the piece as a whole. In some aspect, all three of the Mona Lisas share the same content of art and science because the Mona Lisa's pyramid-like geometric shape bring our attention up to her face, which is the focal point of this painting. Identity and gender is another similarity between the Mona Lisa and look, but not as much as in 30 or better than one. Duchamp created a basic sort of mask that reads instantly as male, but does not even pretend to conceal the woman behind the mask. As opposed to Da Vinci, has the Mona Lisa wearing a gorneo, which is a veil, and was traditionally used by women while pregnant or just after giving birth. Another major contrast is that opposed to the old school Renaissance style artwork, Duchamp introduces Dadaism, which recognizes the concepts of anti-art. He does this by basically parodying Da Vinci's work, introducing a new style of art. Both Warhol and Duchamp's pieces have in common is that they are both postmodern and appropriations of the same painting. Lastly, in contrast to the other two, the subject of Warhol's work is not Leonardo's painting, but rather its reproduction and the way in which our perception of a unique creation is affected by ubiquitous duplication, bringing in the American cultural identity that more is better. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for watching.